Com's Ricky Doyle. Ricky, how are you?
I'm good. I got a creaky
Stay
chair,
still
though.
as a statue over there.
Yeah, I'm going to be like Kirk Cousins in the pocket. We go back to our electric football analogy because I am creaking.
Right.
It's Halloween. It's spooky season.
Is it spooky
This is like
season?
a kind of. Yeah, we're getting
true.
there.
I got my
it's like a creaky
fall
attic
shirt on today, so I'm ready to go. It's week 4 of the NFL. We will get to our picks of the week. 3-unit, 2-unit, 1-unit as a way of, quantifying our confidence in these picks across the NFL.
Yeah.
It's been a rough couple of weeks. Things are not going well for us in terms of the NFL. I don't want to say I don't want to tip our hand about anything else in this world, but it's been a wild few weeks in the NFL. Any big picture takeaways before we dive into the week 4 slate? It just feels like
no, it is. It's
nothing makes sense.
How much have we learned? I guess is like the thing.
So this is
we're still kind of basing a lot off like preconceived notions. Like I'm still relying on my preseason reads for a lot of teams. Like not even diving into the numbers.
This is like 100% a byproduct of how jacked up the NFL offseason is now. And I understand why it happened, and I think it's probably for the best with some of it in terms of limiting how much guys can do, how often they can do it. The preseason is obviously shorter. Teams are petrified of getting guys hurt in the preseason, so nobody plays in the preseason.
Yep.
And then so you get, a month, 6 weeks before things really start to look like they should. You want to talk about spooky season? Like, do we start the season at Halloween? Like, is that where we really start thinking about it for real? Because I'm with you. I mean, my first pick will be part of, like, I'm not totally abandoning my preseason ideas of teams, but, like, a lot of them are wrong still, too. So it's hard to commit
100%.
to.
I think a better way of putting it maybe is that every team looks vulnerable to a certain extent, even the best of teams. Like I think that
even Buffalo.
Well, you see with Buffalo, it's like you kind of consider the level of competition.
That's a fair point.
Or I still think that they found themselves in a favorable position 2 weeks ago against Miami. Like that was
that's true.
A
big one for
broken
them this
down
week.
Miami
they
team.
get Baltimore on Sunday night.
Yeah,
and then we'll kind of
maybe this is the week that you start to learn a little bit more. Is looking at some of the matchups, but even a team like the Chiefs, like they're. So this is what to use the Chiefs as an example. It's like why a team like that I probably have even more confidence in right now as it relates to this season because like we've seen them start slow.
Yep.
We've seen like everybody kind of discredits some of the wins they've had to this point. Like, oh, they could be like 0-3.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but they're not.
They're not.
And that's what makes them the
Yeah.
Chiefs, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's what made the Patriots so good for all that time.
They're like the only ones we can really say that. And I still don't know if they're the best team in the league, but I just know that I can at least trust them, which I can't say for a lot of teams. To that point, NFL underdogs of 5.5 points are 14-2 against the spread with 10 outright wins. They went 5-0 in week 3. That's a nugget from good friend Ben Fox, formerly of Visa, now has his own Substack. Like that just speaks to how nobody has any idea.
The biggest underdog each week has won outright.
It's good news for the Patriots.
Good, very good news.
Like
yeah.
10.5 point underdogs in San Francisco this week. So I don't know. If
2 of those games involve Cincinnati too.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Do you want to talk about? I mean, survivor pool. If you're in that, you're done. You're just dead at this point.
But so maybe like the as we progress throughout this season, like going back to the Chiefs thing, where maybe this season more than most is where like the operation of things is more important than the talent on the field, like like coaching.
About that. No, so that's all right. I'm glad
like
you brought
just
that up.
having
my North Star at this point. Well, that's probably misstating it because again, I'm on the Bengals again this week, but like follow the coach.
So like
the
this
system.
is where maybe I was completely wrong about Minnesota. I don't know how good they are in the long run, but their floor is so much higher than a lot of other teams because of their coaching.
When nothing else has been decided, look to that. So like maybe that's a thing. Like next year, early season, bet on the system, the institution, and then let everything else play itself out. Eventually, the Vikings are going to get picked off by a team that's more talented than them. But early on, when everybody else is finding their footing, trust the coaching, trust the institution. Steelers, perfect example of that too.
Steal wins that.
Even like the Broncos are getting a little bit of buzz all of a sudden, and I think that is partially.
Which makes me wonder, not to go too far ahead, but like, are we going to get a watered down playoffs because teams that steal wins early in the season ultimately make it in on the back of like their early season performance, and they
isn't that kind of already happening though?
I think we've seen it over the last few years.
Plus the playoff expansion.
This year,
like it's it's just like a lot of this comes back to just dumb ideas by the NFL. But like it's making them money and nobody's turning it off, so they're gonna keep doing it.
So what did you? I know you were pro this last week, and I just want to circle back on it. But the 2 Monday Night Football games, you're in on that.
This was a perfect reason why. I mean, I didn't watch a ton of it on Monday night, but like one game's a 30-point game.
Yeah,
you got another one to flip onto. And I don't watch games religiously anyway, so it's.
I don't know what it is though. This is just maybe my stupid brain, but like I hate how like it's staggered but not that staggered. Like there's like a 7:30 kickoff and then 8:15.
Yeah, and
so
it
it's
comes
like,
early too. Like oh, it's already the second quarter in the Buffalo game.
So like my concept of time is just all out of whack.
Definitely,
because it's usually when I'm trying to get dinner and
like
stuff
there's
too.
a rhythm to life that settles into
then
like
you throw in Monday Night Raw.
Yeah,
you get that on
100%. Like I'm with you. Like it's put the kid to bed at 8. By 8:20, I plop into the couch and I know I can catch up on Raw and DVR and I know the kickoff is just starting. But now it's like I'm a quarter and a half behind and it's already there's touchdowns here and there. It's hard to follow. But I think if there's going to be
was a two very like disjointed games.
And if there's going to be 2 games, I would rather have it staggered. I don't know. I don't totally love it. I had no problem with Monday night just having 1 game, but
yeah, that's what I think. I think by Monday I'm just like I don't mind it, but one's just, like that's all. My attention span is just 1 game. Just give me the 1 game.
So for this, you and I are going to focus on 3 games each. Let's get into that. What's your 3-unit pick for Week 4?
So I'm going to take Indianapolis getting a 1.5 at home against Pittsburgh. You started mentioning the Steelers, the 3-0 Steelers. I'm just looking for a spot to fade them at this point because and we talked a little bit about this last week, how there's just everything looks unsustainable with them. And to their credit,
they've given up 26 points.
They've been able to do it over time. 26 points, but like part of me wonders if we're overrating the defense a little bit.
I mean, they're not going to give up 8 points a game for the rest of the season.
Week 1, you had Kirk Cousins in his first game off the Achilles injury, first game for Atlanta. Second week, Bo Nix, rookie quarterback. Third week, Justin Herbert, who was injured going into the game. So
sell me on the Colts offense here.
I don't love the Colts offense, but
sell me on the Colts in general. Then.
I like the Indianapolis's offensive line. I still think they're among the best in the league. First in pass block win rate. Third in pass block win rate, first in run block win rate, I believe.
Okay.
I think you saw a little bit of burst from Jonathan Taylor last week. So I think what they do well offensively, or have the potential to do well offensively, it can neutralize Pittsburgh's defense a little bit. I think that Pittsburgh's offense still leaves a lot to be desired.
That's for sure.
This is a better, albeit less explosive version of Justin Fields because you're not getting the negative plays. Like I think it's almost like they broke him down to build him back up. So maybe later in the season you start to see a more like complete Justin Fields. But that being said, he's still 25th of 31 qualified quarterbacks in success rate, explosive play rate. George Pickens is really the only guy that is worth a damn on that offense. So I think I just have questions about the Steelers. And then just from a spot standpoint, like third road game in 4 weeks. You get a Week 5 primetime matchup against the Cowboys next week. So just interesting spot in the schedule.
Oh, that's going to be awesome.
Mike Tomlin, obviously relishes the underdog role. As a favorite, though, road favorite, 33, 40, and 2 against the spread in his career. And I don't know. I think there is a little bit of value with Indianapolis. I think they're still trying to wash off the stink of those back-to-back losses to begin the season where, granted, they didn't look good, especially that Week 2 against Green Bay. But, Week 1 was a loss to Houston. I think Houston's a pretty good team. So, I don't know. I think Indy will be okay in the long run. Certainly enough to justify grabbing a 1.5 at home against a team that I have some questions about.
So, the Steelers are 3-0. We kind of talked about the Chiefs and the Bills. I guess the better question is, we're going to talk about the 3-0 teams. I think the Chiefs and the Bills are obviously the top of that class. Who's the other, who leads that next group of 3-0 teams of the Vikings, Steelers, and Seahawks? I think there's a pretty clear number 1 through 3 weeks. I don't know if it's where you're looking. Who do you think?
So you're going to say the Vikings,
Yeah,
right?
I am, yeah.
Through 3 weeks, I agree. It has looked good, obviously.
Can you
They've
make a
beaten
case
good
for them
competition.
to be the best team in the NFL? Are you ready to do that?
I'm not. No,
No.
I mean,
Yeah,
you probably could using just sheer numbers, but
Yeah.
like I'm not ready to go there. Because I think ultimately the quarterback play is going to be a problem. Like I think now you're getting enough out of the quarterback, and the coach and quarterback are working, and such good tandem that it works. But like, what happens when the game speeds up a little bit on Sam Darnold in week 11?
Yeah,
like I don't know what it looks like. So I think Seattle. Like I don't, and this goes back to what we talked about at the top. Like you're still relying a lot on your preseason expectations, and I liked Seattle coming into the year. So the fact that they're 3-0 is a little bit of confirmation bias, maybe. So that's the one thing.
there's that
I was
too.
totally wrong about Minnesota. Let's get that out of the way now, because I thought their defense was going to stink. Again, probably didn't give Brian Flores enough credit.
It's good coaching staff.
Yeah, very good. But I think I might have been onto something with Seattle, is I think that they
Potentially good coaching staff too.
good coaching staff.
The Grubster.
The quarterback play has been strong for better two plus seasons now. Weapons on offense. It's just a matter of the defense. Will that hold up? But I think there's enough talent there now with the defensive coach as well that they can do something.
Yeah. What's the ceiling for the Steelers then? Like, are they're almost at the point where they're banking enough wins where I'm like, they're going to the playoffs. I know it's
probably
not even October yet, but I think they have all the makings of a 9-8 team that somehow sneaks in. Maybe they're that 7 spot that we were talking about. They muck up the entire thing. We're going to be sitting here in January, I mean, maybe, and talking about, like, I don't want anything to do with the Steelers one way or another in this wild card game. So I think that's kind of where they're headed. I don't know who ends up being the quarterback for the long term there. And even, if they trip up this week, which I actually don't think they will, like, they could be, if they're 4-0 after this week.
Can they win the division?
Yeah, they definitely can.
So,
because it's exactly what you're talking about. Like, how do you, are these teams that fall behind so early, are they just going to have enough time to catch up? And I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
the Bengals and the Ravens are going to have to take full advantage of their games with the Steelers.
Just looking at the AFC North odds, Ravens still a favorite, but now plus 130. Steelers plus 220. This is at FanDuel Sportsbook. Yeah. Bengals plus 340, and then the Browns, who I think are they look awful right now. They're 7-1.
I might bet the Browns just because. Who knows at this point? Like
but Seattle's to go off of them again about 3-0 teams. Like, so San Francisco in the NFC West still the favorites to win the division at plus 110. Seattle's sitting at plus 190. They have a 2-game lead over there. I mean, I know it's through 3 weeks, but like the other teams are sitting at 1-2, and they're 3-0.
Yeah.
So not only are they
haven't played a divisional game yet, have they?
They have not. No.
So I mean,
and this is another, to go back to what you're saying. Like, you might learn a lot this week because they got Detroit this week.
Yeah. So
we'll see what they're, because they have. I mean, the knock on them has been the level of competition, right?
Yeah.
Like, New England took them to overtime.
Tell you what, the place to bet the 49ers this week, and then circle back and get the Seahawks in a couple of weeks. Get them both at plus money. So, all right. Speaking of teams that are not 3-0, I'm taking the Bengals as 4.5-point road favorites against the Carolina Panthers.
The Andy Dalton Bowl.
The Andy Dalton Bowl, yeah. I just have not learned my goddamn lesson with the Bengals. I'm back on the Bengals this reason for the same exact reasons pretty much last week. It's the genesis of the base of this is basically it can't get any worse, right? And so this game,
another team I was wrong about, by the way, potentially.
Yeah,
I'm not burying them yet, but I could be totally wrong.
I was
about the
conflicted
Bengals.
as I was putting this together. Like, well, I might have been right about this one, Ricky. But so this game opened at 7. It's already down to 4.5. Like, it feels far more like a 7-point game than a 4.5-point game. I think the Bengals might have a defensive problem. I'm pretty sure they have a problem on defense. They can't stop the run. They got a little bit better last week. I don't think Carolina is going to accentuate that. I am 100% ready to discount everything that happened last week in the Panthers game. I think that's a fake game because the Raiders, you saw Antonio Pierce, like, literally minutes after the game being like, we had guys making business decisions late in this game. And it's just...
What an asinine comment, too, for a team that got punched in the mouth right out of the gate.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So he's bickering about the final few minutes or whatever it may be. It's like, dude,
that being said,
your team wasn't ready to play.
The Jack Jones film was not good.
Yeah.
He did not seem very interested in tackling. But like at the same time, I guess
But that's Shaq
it's
Jones.
Weird,
like
it's,
you know what you're getting into
it's
with
also
Shaq
weird
Jones.
for it's just the thing. Like professional athletes are wired differently. It's weird for an ex-coach or an ex-player to be like, guys were putting their own well-being in front of the teams in like a 20-point game late in the game. But I think it has more to do. Fine, if the coaching is bad, the commitment's bad. I don't put a whole lot of stock into the Raiders. I think they stink.
Brutal. One of the worst teams in the NFL.
I think Carolina stinks. I do wonder if last week they got a bit of a bump, similar to like when a team fires its coach and there's a little bit of renewed optimism, renewed hope. The film is whatever. Like it's insane that Andy Dalton is still playing, but that's neither here nor there. I think it comes back to earth a little bit. I think the bigger issue is I don't think they can stop the Bengals. And for as bad as the Bengals look defensively, offensively they continue to get better. Joe Burrow, gotten better every week, or at least his numbers have. He ranks 7th in pass rating, 8th in completion percentage, 7th in passing yards, 5th in touchdown passes. They have offensive line issues. They just lost Trent Brown for the season. But Carolina is not the sort of team that's going to make them pay. This is insanity. They have one quarterback hurry for the first 3 weeks. That's last in the NFL. So this is the thing. They have 5 sacks. So how do you have 5 sacks but only 3 hurries? It's a little different. There's nuances.
Sure.
Whatever.
Yeah.
5 sacks ranks 27th. They've generated 7 pressures. That is dead last. That 7 pressures is half of what the Dolphins and Raiders have. The Dolphins and Raiders are tied for 30th in the NFL. They are last by a mile when it comes to generating pressure. I don't think they're going to be able to get home here. I think Cincinnati does more than enough to run away and hide, and I just don't like Andy Dalton's chances in, putting up an offensive effort back-to-back weeks that resembles something of a shootout. So I just have to think there's enough institutional pride and talent with the Bengals that they end this thing this week, get back on the right track. I know I said like the exact same thing last week, but I think this week it's a better. I
mean, the one thing working in their favor, I guess, is like they're no strangers to slow starts. Like they've bounced back before. They win this week. They got a big game hosting Baltimore next week, and then they got a couple of soft games of the Giants and the Browns. Like there's a path to them getting back on track pretty quickly. To which I would say, like, if you do like them, like this is a classic buy low spot.
Yeah,
you can get plus value on them to make the playoffs, plus 122. To win the AFC, 16-1. So
yeah,
if you're in on I feel like we had this conversation last year, maybe closer to like right around Halloween.
Probably, yeah.
We were like, hey, this is time to buy in on Joe Burrow, and then he got hurt the following week. So maybe this is the kiss of death. So you can either heed our advice, or you can go the complete opposite direction. And I don't want to blame you.
Gotta get that magic glove back on.
Yeah.
One thing I was thinking of watching on Monday night, like I do think, or this is Monday night into whatever, Sunday into Monday, like it's very hard to do the quarterback thing. I know that's no, it's no monumental take, but we talk about it with the Patriots locally here, and we wrote some stuff for NESN.com this week, but it's like Bryce Young, they completely parked out of the gate, and it's just, no kidding, that guy sucks. Like he's not been put in a position to really succeed. At the same time, like the Bengals have done everything for Joe Burrow, and we were talking about it 2 weeks ago about this is the model for what you want to follow. Yeah. And like, I still think it technically is, but it speaks to just how much has to go right for everything to kind of work consistently. And if there's like even one small hiccup along the way, it can take you down. That's why I think you look at maybe the conversation when it comes to like, can the Patriots develop Drake May, for example? Would probably need to talk more about the coaching and the foundation around him than just like the players with which he's playing.
Yep.
Because like the Packers, the Malik Willis thing, especially going back to Tennessee last week, like it's more about finding guys who fit a skill set and building everything else around them, specifically the coaching that goes a long way. And like we've seen it across the league, so many guys who are flourishing in like their third or fourth stop. I know this is like I said, it's no great revelation, but it's just, this thing's hard, and there's so little room or margin for error.
There's got to be like another component. It's got to be like the quarterback and what?
Yeah.
Is it the coach?
Unless,
is it because like?
Well, I was gonna say unless you have like a generational talent, but even like Mahomes has Andy Reid. Like
I'm thinking like even if you have an elite defense, like then all of a sudden you're not putting your rookie quarterback in a position to
managing expectations.
Have to go out and score 40 points a game, which
Justin
is like
Fields thing.
which is currently with like, and like to use the Cincinnati example, like now that they've regressed to such an extent defensively that it's almost mitigating what you have in the quarterback. It's kind of what we saw with like Josh Allen in the playoffs from time to time. It's like a guy can ball out, but does it really matter if the defense stinks to the degree that Cincinnati's did on Monday night?
Not to mention too, and like coming out of Thursday night with the Patriots game, like people are making grand proclamations about Drake May in the short and in the long term, and it's like Josh Allen
hasn't even played.
Josh Allen's a perfect example. It looked rough, very rough at times early on. The guy still hasn't even really sniffed the Super Bowl, and we're sitting here talking about it. So, like, I don't think people have the patience for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Locally, anywhere, pretty much in any market. Like, it's just one of those things where you step back and you're like, we're all idiots. We are all just like fish swimming in a tank.
Bryce Young was double porked because I don't think he's that good to begin with, and he was in a crummy situation. So it's like, what do you expect's going to happen?
Yeah.
I mean, everything.
The worst thing for him, though, is Andy Dalton just lighting it up.
That like the eye test wasn't good.
Yeah.
The analytics weren't good. Nothing was good. There was nothing that you could point to. The best thing that could have happened for that team is turning to Andy Dalton.
And it helps to draft a 6'5" quarterback as opposed to a 5'9" guy.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's your 2-unit play?
2-unit play. I almost made this my 3-unit, but for the sake of the flow of the show, I bumped it down to a 2-unit. I'm going to lay 2.5 points with Chicago versus the Rams. And I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth a little bit because we spoke about the importance of head coaching. And this is about the biggest coaching mismatch that you can get in the NFL right now, with Sean McVay versus Matt Eberflus. One team literally just pulling out wins on the back of their coach. The other team's coach is putting their rookie quarterback in a very dicey situation. But nevertheless, to me, this feels like maybe this is the spot for the Caleb Williams breakout game. I do think that last week's win for the Rams felt a little bit like a emptying of the tank. Like they were, trailing late in that game. A miracle that they were able to come back. That does nothing to heal their injuries in the wide receiver room, along the offensive line, on the defense. Like every facet of that roster is banged up right now.
It's also a divisional win,
divisional win, which is a spot where
it means a lot more to them than this week will.
Yeah, and McVay traditionally has been, from a betting standpoint, very profitable in division versus outside the division. So the spot works in his favor. One of the trends from the Action Network, since 2016, teams coming off a comeback of 14 or more points are 49, 70, and 1 against the spread.
Love that.
So that's a 41.2% cover rate. Again, if this goes belly up, it's because the coaching failed Chicago, which we're continuing to see. Like not just Eberflus, but like offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. The thing with that offense is, it's not only do they have Caleb Williams running for his life behind a bad offensive line, but it's just like they're not picking up any yardage on first and second down. So he's constantly just playing behind the sticks, and it's just a bad situation. But
he's been fine. Like,
yeah, him, like, if you in a vacuum, he's been.
The numbers are good, I guess. Like,
okay,
it's a bit of a cluster, but
the one silver lining for Chicago is that defense might be pretty good. Like, I think defense might be legit, which goes back to what you're saying. Like, at least you can hang your hat on that. So, yeah, 2.5 points at home against a team that I just think they're going to be running on fumes a little bit after last week. Yeah. Chicago. First in pass rush win. Pass rush.
Sound like a
pass rush win rate.
Pass rush.
Going up against that Rams offensive line, that could be a mismatch.
It could be. You want to talk Bill Belichick? You want to put him on the Bears?
Why not? We put him on every other team.
We could have
put him on the Bengals a few minutes ago too, if we wanted to.
Would it show the Bears? The Bears should be 0-3, by the way. I know their point differential is fine, but they're like Will Levis away from being 0-3. They kind of have to stick with it, though, right? Like, you can't just abandon ship.
That's like, if you start making all these so the next, I think you stick it out for this season, and then maybe you make a change.
Yeah.
Depending on how it looks the rest of the way. If you start making like in-season coaching changes, then you're going the way of Carolina with the whole Bryce Young thing, and like that's the last thing you want to replicate.
That's exactly what happened, right?
So like I think you get past this, and then you look to like a Ben Johnson or a Kubiak in New Orleans, like one of these offensive minds that you bring in to work with Caleb Williams, because I think it's trending in the direction of there being a coaching change. I don't think you make it in season.
They kind of have to, which is why it's insane that they didn't just make that change this offseason. They put a lot of stock in a defensive-minded head coach who's maybe not very good at his job, but that's the offensive line's a mess too. I don't think that's a good Belichick spot either. I don't think Belichick has the patience for.
No, I don't think that would work out. I think he had some comments a couple weeks ago about
he doesn't like him,
the roster construction or something.
Oh yeah, I
or
thought
the
he was
offensive
talking about
line.
he doesn't like
Caleb
maybe
Caleb. Yeah. I think he's
not accurate enough.
He's been going in on the Bears a little bit.
Yeah.
By the way, who's the best coach in the NFL?
Matt LaFleur. Sean McVay, I guess. Yeah.
Him or Andy Reid.
Yeah.
Reid, McVay.
I mean, Andy Reid probably loses points because he's got Patrick Mahomes.
It's like a top tier, maybe.
Not his fault, but
Shanahan. He's had some weird moments though too.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like I don't know if there's. I guess what I'm getting at is there's no real clear choice.
Sure.
And it's just an interesting conversation.
I agree. Yeah. Two teams with coaches are probably not in the running for that discussion are Arizona and Washington. I'm going to take the Cardinals as 3.5-point home favorites against Washington. The Cardinals might be good.
Maybe.
Have we talked about them this year much? I'm trying to remember.
I don't think so.
So they're 1-2, but the losses came to Buffalo and they lost to Detroit. So they lost to Buffalo, a game that they were leading at halftime, tough spot on the road, opening in Orchard Park. This past week, they lost that game. It probably wasn't as close as the final score indicated, but they did kind of hang with the Lions, a team that is a Super Bowl contender. Detroit ran all over them. That was an issue. I don't think Washington can do the same. So I'm kind of trying to buy the Cardinals while they may be a little bit of a dip, and selling the Commanders when they might have whatever the opposite of a dip is, a spike. Washington, great win. Great, program building win. Everybody's feeling great down there. Down there, I guess, technically. Everything's down there when you live in New England. I think Jayden Daniels is a dude. Like Dan Quinn, I do like.
He looked good.
Yeah.
He looked good.
So I just feel like this is a major letdown spot. Short week, you're feeling real good. Feeling real good coming off that win. Now you got to do it. Less prep. Emotional win. There could be a bit of we have this roller coaster thing of a rookie quarterback, the ups and downs. It feels like it wouldn't be surprising if we see a dip come here. But the bigger issue for the Commanders, in my opinion, is their defense. It's bad, which is weird considering Quinn is a defensive-minded head coach. And that was my thing. I was like, I think the defense is going to outpace the offense. It's been the complete opposite. They rank 32nd in DVOA, 32nd in EPA, 31st in yards per play allowed, 29th in defensive scoring. Where you look at this Cardinals team, and they've got some playmakers. And Kyler Murray has, this is one thing I threw around as a potential talking point. Is he a top 10 quarterback? And if we go back to our summer discussions, it doesn't feel like he came up a ton.
No. The one time he came up is when I said that he's the guy that when you're going against him, and
which was almost you last week.
He is the guy that I'm sweating for. He's got backdoor cover written all over him.
Yeah, and I'm looking up his numbers. I mean, they're good. His passer rating through 3 weeks, 104.6. That would be a career high. His QBR is 75.6, would be easily a career high.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got some weapons around him. I think
the problem is I've seen it before though.
The coaching staff is settling in. I don't know.
They
have a very nondescript coaching staff too, by the way.
But haven't we seen the flashes from him at various points?
Has it been this sustained? It was 2 years ago, and then he got hurt. He was playing well before he got hurt. But that's the thing.
Correctly. Who's to say he's not going to get hurt this year?
I don't think it's going to happen this week.
He's a very small man.
Well, we're not. I guess I did ask you big picture, but going into week 4 of the NFL in 2024, I do think he's a top 10 quarterback.
He's good.
Right now.
He is a good quarterback.
And so I think he's going to have another big week. I think that, again, I just talked about how Washington can't defend him. On the other side, don't love the Cardinals defense, but I will kind of. We talk about the things that we just glob onto that make no sense, and we just need to do it for our own edification and to justify our pick, let me throw this one on you. Who's the offensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders?
Cliff Kingsbury.
That's right. Where did he used to be the head coach?
Arizona.
So none of his coaching staff is left. But there's a couple guys like Buda Baker's still there, Jalen Thomas. There's a little bit there, right?
Yeah.
So we just need to cover 3.5 here. That's all I'm trying to get to. So that's something to keep in your back pocket as well. So let me get the Cardinals as 3.5 point favorites against Washington.
On Kyler, though, I will say this, that he's definitely justifying their faith in him as being their quarterback. Like, because there was the point where it was like, do they move on from Kyler and do they pick a quarterback in this draft? The fact that they stuck with him, augmented the roster by going offense, bringing in Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, you're already seeing that was probably the right move. Mm-hmm. It's just, especially when we've talked about how hard it is to get the quarterback thing right. It's like if you have a guy who is a borderline top 10 quarterback, he might not be the elite of the elite, but he's pretty damn good. Moving on from that is extremely difficult.
Yeah, right. I mean, nobody has patience. Like that
is, it would have been very greedy to have gotten rid of him.
And I thought they were gonna. I thought they were gonna trade him, or I thought they were gonna try to go get one of those top quarterbacks because they had the opportunity.
It really came down to probably the contractual stuff more so than like the
willingness or desire to do so. Yeah. That makes sense. What's your 3-unit play? 1 unit play.
1 unit. I don't have a ton on this game, but I like Denver going to the Meadowlands against the Jets under 38.5.
That's a game that should be played on December 19th.
This is literally just like my line of thinking with this game. I think it's going to look exactly like the Jets-Patriots game from last week.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is
probably even
Broncos
more so,
and Patriots are in very similar spots. Like,
can the Broncos
I think their identity is kind of similar right now. So I could see this being like in the Jets. Meanwhile, like you're seeing the offense round into form. The defense, I think we're reminded of how good that defense can be. So like, I could see Denver going in there and scoring no more than 10 points. In which case, it's just a matter of how many are the Jets going to put up. And I think Denver, what we've seen from them so far is that if they do have an identity, it's that they're able to get into rock fights here and there. And, yeah. So initially, I was looking to lean Jets, but I don't love to lay more than a touchdown.
No.
So that's where I started looking at the total, and 38.5. It's a low total, but again, if I'm getting minimal offensive production from the Broncos, I feel good about it.
Do we want to talk about Rodgers at all?
Sure.
Like, that was, as somebody who has watched, I don't think there's anyone in this building who's watched more Aaron Rodgers over the years than I have. That was MVP season Aaron Rodgers. I think the Patriots made it really easy for him. Like, there was like the running stuff. Like, if you allow
the missed tackles, insane.
A 40-year-old with a bum Achilles to run for whatever. I mean, it was only like 20 yards, but it was just an effective mobility in the pocket.
Like 13 missed tackles, like some insane number.
Keep your lane integrity and just keep him in the pocket and hope that you can, keep guys covered until somebody gets home. I don't doubt his singular talent on a game-to-game basis. I just don't know how long it could be sustained, and I don't know what happens when it does get a little adversarial and he starts playing hero ball and so if everything's perfect, and it was very perfect for them on Thursday night, I think it works. And after that, I don't know, but I think that does them in January and not in November. And so this is exactly what we were talking about. We were talking about the AFC last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was. It's like their floor was pretty high for a team that sucked as bad as they did last year. It's so much higher this year because he's a competent adult playing quarterback, and that's underselling him because we saw last week he still has Hall of Fame talent, and it's going to come out more often than not, especially during the regular season.
What's it going to look like when he travels to Pittsburgh on Sunday night in Week 7? And if that,
I mean, it might look great, is
decent enough, they punch him in the mouth a little, or you're looking even further down the road.
Once he starts getting hit,
week 17 at Buffalo, a game that could have big implications. maybe that's when you start to see the wear and tear a little bit.
Yeah, right. And I mean, the offensive line has done a good job for him, but that's when we see when the bottom falls out there. They're
Man,
in
they got a
trouble,
pretty easy schedule though.
Yeah,
just looking at it.
So I mean, they sucked last year.
After
so
their Week 12 bye,
third place.
Seattle. I like Seattle, obviously, like I said. But Miami, I mean, 2 games against Miami, don't know the quarterback situation. Jacksonville, Rams beat up. That Buffalo game is really like the only one.
Yeah. My 1 unit play, I'm taking the under in the Saints Falcons game. It's at 42.5. The fact that I'm under 42 helps me. It's a number. I was gonna say a prime number. it's like a prime. Prime as in not actually by the law of math.
So we do square roots and such.
Both teams major offensive line issues. The Saints lost center Eric McCoy, who's been by far their best offensive lineman. He went down with a groin injury. Philly bullied them last week. 12 pressures on just 27 pass plays, 76%. That's 26 in the league. Now, like according to Pro Football Focus, their top rated lineman is a rookie left tackle. That's not always great. He's been good, but that's can't hang your hat on that. On the other side, this is one thing. This is shrewd Mike at his best. There was it felt like on consecutive plays, there was in the same neighborhood, 2 offensive linemen went down for Atlanta. It was, I don't know which one went down first. It was Drew Dalman and Caleb McGarry. I was getting ready for bed. I was literally brushing my teeth, putting in a live bet on Chiefs money line while I could still get it at a decent price because I was like, there's no way they're winning this game with a busted offensive line. That's one where it's like, don't look at the score.
Yep.
Just give me the win because that game was probably closer than I thought it would play out. But I do think, maybe the Saints here pick on that. I think both of these defenses are going to key off on some busted offensive lines. I think last week for the Saints kind of went a long way in being like, maybe we should tap the brakes on the Kubiak thing, at least for a week. Now they got to go on the road here too. For Atlanta, I still don't totally believe in the offense. And outside of the scripted stuff last week, I don't have a whole lot of reason to believe that they are going to be able to move up and down the field against anybody. So I think this is going to be a bit of a rock fight, despite the fact that there's a lot of talent or a lot of production through 3 weeks on each side of the offense. But I think it turns into a divisional, just kind of punt fest. So.
Everybody loves a punt fest. Speaking of a punt fest, the Saints-Eagles game last week was like, who wants it less?
Yeah, it's
it was
that game was
the Eagles were determined for a good chunk of that game to just do everything they can to give it away. That was Nick Sirianni at his finest.
He's lucky that Saquon Barkley just took off on a run. Otherwise, that game would still be going.
Yeah, that play completely changed the complexion of that game. But just the decision, so this is where coaches really lose me. It's just I'm all for if you're competitive by nature, even if you're conservative by nature, but just stick to your identity. Watching that game unfold, I'm like, Sirianni is just flipping a coin with his field goal choices.
And also, did they fake a tush push or something too?
There was.
It just felt like once the game sped up on him.
It did in a big way.
Yeah,
to the point where it's just
rookie,
common sense decisions were off the table.
Yeah. It's weird. And the guy
just
ran
funny seeing
him, a 65-yard touchdown. This game's over.
It's funny seeing him in the locker room, they do the whip around, some of the locker room reactions after the game, and just we pick each other up. Basically just
thanks guys.
I sucked. Yeah. Thank you. Thank God you bailed my ass out.
Saquon 60-1 for MVP, plus 310. He's the favorite offensive player of the year.
Speaking of that NFC, I'm just looking through some of these division odds. NFC South, who the hell wins that division? Saints are plus 150.
No one has any
favorite
idea.
Right now.
There's
Falcons plus 165. Bucks plus 270, and then Carolina are 22-1.
I'd rather back Carolina than anyone else there.
So, and then I was looking at the Eagles divisional odds on the heels of last week. So they're the favorite in the NFC East. And then Dallas at plus 270, but a team we were just talking about, Washington. Can I entertain you? Washington 7-1 to win the NFC East?
I would rather bet Carolina at 22-1
or the Giants at 25-1.
No. All right. The Giants actually, the NFC East, they play on Thursday night against the Cowboys. We're not really going to dive into that. What we will dive into is the rest of the primetime slate. Starting with Sunday Night Football, we got Buffalo going to Baltimore, taking on the Ravens. Ravens 2.5 points. What do you got here? Any leans? Anything you're feeling good about with this Ravens Bills potential playoff clash?
So the more last week unfolded, the better I felt about backing Baltimore in that like absolute must-win spot. What it felt like that was a spot where Baltimore rises to the occasion and Dallas doesn't, right? Like that is the difference between those two franchises. Yep. Now that being said, I still think that Baltimore has some issues that if they're gonna go anywhere this year, they need to rectify, especially on the defensive side. Like they let Dallas hang around way too long, and I think if you play with fire like that against Buffalo this week, you're gonna get burned. So I'm inclined to lean Buffalo in this game.
I'm leaning Buffalo because I thought the Bills were going to be a better team, I think, than maybe they're not. But I'm leaning Buffalo because you look at their offense, it's been pretty explosive so far this season. The Ravens have had problems stopping chunk plays. I think Josh Allen is in a much better spot than he's been in recent years, where I do wonder if like getting away from Steph Diggs has kind of changed his outlook and the way that they move the ball around. Feels like the running game is a bigger area of focus than it's been in the past. It finally feels like everything's kind of falling into place. They're gaining an identity, which has been my big issue with Buffalo in years past. So I like the Bills here in a potentially uncomfortable spot. This feels like we're kind of taking from the banana in the tailpipe with laying or taking the road team here, but Baltimore, for a team that won pretty big last week, I'm almost like, do I want to jump ship already on this team? So
I think Buffalo was a team that people, I don't want to say overlooked them, but there was a little bit of like post-hype vibe to them coming into the season where because they had the Diggs departure and the lack of a flashy number one receiver, some departures on defense.
They let you down every year in the playoffs.
But it's like it's similar, and we've talked about this in the past, where it's like, okay, well, you brought in some new pieces. Like, who's to say that's not going to work? Because the old pieces weren't working. Mm-hmm. Like, they work to an extent, but why then do they get into the playoffs and they collapse every year? Why is their defense getting hurt every year?
Definition of insanity stuff. Like, you can't just keep
going.
So
at some point, you need to make changes. And I think the natural inclination is to question how they were going to fit. I think we're seeing so far they fit pretty damn good.
My big question with them, and this kind of ties our entire show together, is coaching in the long run. But, maybe we're kind of speaking out both sides of their mouth with that. I don't love them when it gets to the playoffs because of that reason, but for now, I think he's good enough to keep them on the straight and narrow. Monday Night Football, we got a doubleheader again. This game sucks so bad. Tennessee is going to Miami. The Titans are 1.5 point underdogs against the Dolphins, and then you have Seattle going to Detroit, take on the Lions. Lions 3.5 point favorites at home. Let's start with that Titans-Dolphins game. We have 2 minutes left. Any leans here? Are you just going to watch Raw until it's time for the other game to start?
100%. Because like last week, both of these teams, it really let me down. Like, because
you feel sick.
I am devastated. Because the one thing with Tennessee is like, again, the Will Levis problem keeps cropping up. And it's like, well, maybe this is the week they fix it a little bit. They dumb it down, and it just doesn't become that much of an issue. And then it happens again. So you want to talk about insanity? The Titans are the definition of insanity right now. On the flip side, thought we were getting a lot of value with Miami, making that, you lose the quarterback. We've seen some of these teams, the backup quarterback comes in, you get the 1 week bump. Putting a lot of stock in their coaching acumen.
I screwed up.
Mike, I was there with you. I thought there was good value there, and I wanted to back Miami. And then we saw, we start wondering, why is Skylar Thompson the backup quarterback on this? 42% of his passes last week went behind the line of scrimmage. So like, they're not even there's no. I get like Miami in general isn't a team that necessarily pushes the ball downfield through the air. There's a lot of you're scheming it up with the running game and whatnot. But can we at least throw it past the line of scrimmage?
That was a pretty verbose way of saying, Tennessee and Miami are both bad. I'm just going to look at this and say,
give me the under. What's the total in this game?
I'm taking the points at home against Will Levis. I am no way laying points on the road with Mayo guzzling Will Levis.
So it's the lowest total of the week, 36.5.
I'd rather just take the points with Miami. I just no way you can lay points with Will Levis. If you're gonna give me points at home, I'm taking it even my
I think this line's flipped.
Oh, has it?
I got Miami favored by 1.5.
Was this a typo in our notes then? Either way, I don't care. I'm taking Miami here. So I guess this one's not getting used.
Yeah, this may have flipped.
Okay, well.
But yeah, I will. God, I guess
still
I
taking
gotta.
it. I don't care.
I'll take Miami too.
And then he takes on Seattle, Detroit.
I actually like this game. I think this is to go back to what we were saying earlier. I think you're gonna learn a little bit about each of these teams. I think so I like Seattle for the long haul, but I think that this is a week that I would maybe look to fade them because I think the level up in competition in terms of like the offensive talent that you're facing is such an increase from what they've faced to this point.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a little bit of shock value to that. So I could see this being a little bit of a hiccup for them. I think they'll bounce back, but I'll lay the points with the Lions.
I would lay the points too. I actually think this has a chance to be one of those blowout games where we have to reassess everything. I think Detroit really started to kind of get right a little bit last week. I know they got a little bit lucky with a pick six that wasn't. But coming home, place is going to be rocking. Seattle, their toughest test of the year. I think they get blown out, run out of the building, and then all of a sudden we have to reassess whether we think Seattle is actually good. Is Detroit found itself as the Super Bowl contender we all thought they were? That's kind of just a narrative-based approach to how I think this one's going to go.
The Seattle has faced Denver, New England, and Miami without Tua.
Yeah, and I don't even think
all bad offenses.
I don't even think the Lions are that good, but this is by far the best team. Agreed. They're good. I don't think they're as good as everybody else is. All right, anything else we got to get out here? We're going to get kicked in the face.
No, let's go get some sweet chin music.
All right, that's Ricky. I'm Mike. Thanks for watching The Spread. See you again next week. Goodbye.